Provincial Parliament, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
I see the Speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, members, guests in the gallery and fellow South Africans. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's budget for the 2019 MTEF period. The 2019-20 financial year marks the final year of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's 5-year strategic plan, and this budget is also the final budget for the 5th parliamentary term. In this context, I would like to inform the House of some of the achievements and challenges of the last 4 years. Over the years, receiving a clean audit has become the norm at Western Cape Provincial Parliament, which is as a result of its commitment to good governance in executing its core functions. In addition to this, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament will continue to implement its governance framework, which sets out the governance components, principles and requirements to enhance the internal control environment and achieve the fiduciary responsibilities of the accounting officer and other officials as set out in Section 12 of the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act. The Western Cape Provincial Parliament has successfully implemented SAGE X3 Enterprise Resource Planning System and has had successful salary runs since going live in April 2018. In addition to providing an integrated system, the functionality also allows for WCPP to process claims and payments with double the regularity of PERSAL and BAS. Notwithstanding the successes, as with any new system, there are still a few teething problems that are currently receiving attention, and I am confident it will be resolved in the early part of the new financial year. In 2019, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament will continue to stabilise and optimise the ERP system, and therefore has allocated a budget of 500,000 Rand for functional enhancement, 640,000 Rand for support and maintenance, and 432,000 Rand for licensing fees. In terms of lawmaking and oversight, WCPP will continue to provide quality support to the House and its committees. Huge progress has been made in the finalisation of the review of standing rules. The subcommittee completed its work and made a presentation to the Rules Committee on Wednesday, the 20th of March, 2019. The Rules Committee agreed to the amendments in principle, and the report on the review of the rules will be considered by the House tomorrow, the 27th of March. Provision has been made in the Goods and Services budget for the printing and publication thereof. I wish to thank the Deputy Speaker and all the members of the subcommittee in this regard. In 2019-2020, Western Cape Provincial Parliament will seek to expand its outreach to the people of the Western Cape and will use digital means to foster relationships with its stakeholders. In 2018, we committed to conduct a baseline study aimed at providing the institution with relevant data to enable proper future impact assessment of public participation interventions. However, during the development seminar of the legislative sector, which was hosted by WCPP in this province, this matter was discussed and deliberated on at length. The sector experienced similar problems with public involvement in their legislative activities. Going forward, WCPP will continue to engage with the sector in this regard. The Department of Community Safety continues to provide security support for standing committees during oversight visits in line with the approved service level agreement. In the 2019 budget, 241,000 Rand has been allocated for this outsourced service. 2018 has seen an increase in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament involvement in sector activities. The administration has contributed on various levels in projects in the sector, including the development sector, which took place in December last year. WCPP was also instrumental in developing the communication strategy framework for the sector and is also represented on the sectoral team responsible for the overall preparation for the 6th Parliament. Going forward into 2019, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament will continue to be responsive to public outreach initiatives coordinated by the legislative sector, including sectoral parliaments and commemorative events. Going into 2019, considerable work has commenced on the preparation for the 6th Parliament. A task team under the leadership of the Secretary has been established to drive the process in establishing the 6th Parliament, and a total budget of R2,302,000 has been set aside for this purpose. This budget will cover expenditure relating to the opening of the new Parliament, promotional items, IT equipment, furniture, and members' relocation costs where applicable. Included in this budget is also provision for the printing and publication of a legacy document which will highlight the major achievements of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's committees and the administration for the 5th term. This publication will be presented to all members of the 5th Parliament, and a limited number of copies will be kept as corporate gifts and included in the library collection of WCPP. Since November 2017, WCPP was involved in a project on functional enhancement with an external service provider which concluded in September 2018. The 2019-2020 budget is based on the new organizational structure which flowed from the findings of the report issued by the external service provider and adopted and amended by the EXCO. The Western Cape Provincial Parliament has commenced with a staggered implementation of its functional enhancement project and received from the Provincial Treasury additional funding of R2 million in 2019-20, R3.5 million in 2021, and R8 million in the 2021-22 financial years. The Western Cape Provincial Parliament's establishment increased from 109 positions to a total of 118 positions. Since the approval of the new organizational structure, we have finalized the appointment of 3 director positions who will commence duty with effect from the 1st of April 2019. To date, we have also managed to finalize 1 manager position, and we are in the process of finalizing the remaining 2. I'm also happy to announce that a new Secretary to Parliament, Mr. Romeo Adams, will commence duty on the 1st of April 2019. I'm confident with the appointment of the new Secretary, together with the implementation of the results of Functional Enhancement Project, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament will optimize the effectiveness and efficiency of all its functional units and continue to fulfill its constitutional mandate and deliver enhanced services to members and other stakeholders. WCPP is always mindful of the scarcity of water in the Western Cape, and to this end, we take this reality into consideration in all our planning and operations. We will continue to review our water scarcity business continuity plan that will inform any activities required to ensure business continuity in the possibility of an extended water supply disruption and water shortages in Cape Town. In terms of human resources, skills development, and employee wellness, we will continue to receive focus during 2019. During 2018, a new employee wellness model was introduced with overwhelming positive feedback. This program aimed at providing support in critical areas which included mental health sessions, sessions on real relationships, as well as a very well-attended health day, which covered a broad spectrum of assessments, information, as well as the beauty and relaxation stations. An amount of R185,000 has been allocated to continue with similar programs into 2019. A budget of 667,000 rand has been set aside for functional training, and 134,000 rand has been allocated for bursaries to staff. In 2019, WCPP will continue with its successful rollout of live streaming of all parliamentary sittings on the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's YouTube channel. With the Western Cape Provincial Parliament will also build on its steady increase in social media activity across all platforms and continue to provide support to standing committees with regard to activities on social media, arranging interviews on radio stations, recordings, editing and dissemination of sound bites to radio stations. We have not yet resolved the challenges around the accommodation shortage and the issuing of the fire rationale security clearance certificate for the Legislature building. We are in constant engagement with the Department of Transport and Public Works and hope to have this matter resolved as soon as possible. Mr. Deputy Speaker, allow me to present a high-level summary of the 2019-2020 budget. WCPP's receipts increased with 15,220,000 rand from the 2018-19 revised estimate of 143,874,000 rand to a total budget of 159,094,000 rand in 2019-2020. This equates to an overall 10.58% increase from the 2018-19 revised estimate. WCPP's own revenue for the 2019-20 financial year is 817,000 rand. This revenue source is made up of surplus donor funds of the LSS program, of which 750,000 rand has been allocated each over the 2019-20 and 2021 MTEF years. The balance of 67,000 rand is mainly sourced from revenue items such as accrued interest on our bank account, interest on debt, commission earned, sale of corporate gifts, sale of meals, and retained parking fees. The 2019-20 budget is as follows. Program 1 is 70,470.423 million, which is an increase of 14.11%. Program 2, Parliamentary Services, is 22.150 million rand, which is an increase of 7.37%. Program 3, Public Engagement, is 13.206 million rand, which is an increase of 35.13%. And lastly, Program 4, Member Support, is 53.315 million rand, which is an increase of 3.01%. The summary per economic classification is as follows. Compensation of employees will increase by 15.261 million rand, which is a 24.15% increase from the revised estimate of 63.188 million rand to 78.449 million rand in 2019-20. This increase relates to the provision for salary adjustments and the changes to the structure and phased-in implementation of the Functional Enhancement Project. The Goods and Services budget shows an increase of 4.5% from 30.783 million rand in the 2018-19 revised estimate to 32.191 million rand in 2019-20. This minimal increase in Goods and Services budget is as a result of the net effect of the provision made for inflationary increases, the increase in the baseline of the LSS funding earmarked for sector-specific programs relating to the establishment of the 6th Parliament, continued enhancement, maintenance and licensing of the Enterprise Resource System, training and development, and the reduced provision made for the ERP project, which was concluded in the 2018-19 financial year. Included in the goods and services budget is an inflationary increase for the members' enabling allowances and a 15.94% increase on audit fees. The provision for transfer and subsidies is further broken down as follows. The minimal increase of 7.14% in the departmental agencies and accounts budget from 28,000 Rand to 30,000 is due to the estimate provided for television license fees. Under foreign government and international organizations, 299,000 Rand has been allocated for the payment of subscription fees to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. There is a 0.97% or 410,000 increase in transfers to political parties, which is made up of the secretarial and constituency allowances. For the 2018-19 financial year, National Parliament did not provide for an annual increase in the constituency allowances, which effectively meant the original figure provided for in the prepared 2018-19 budget was more than what National Parliament provided. Taking this into account, the effective increase for secretarial and constituency allowances for 2019-20 is 5.15%. Under household budgets, 1.747 billion Rand provision has been made for the payment of medical aid contributions for the continuation members, as well as a nominal amount thereof for the payment of incentive rewards to qualifying staff. The capital expenditure budget for 2019-20 decreases by 32.62% from the 2018-2019 revised estimates to 3.524 million, since the majority of the hardware purchases and network refresh is anticipated to be completed in the 2018-19 financial year. In conclusion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament would like to thank Dr. Ivan Meyer, the Minister of Finance, and his Treasury team for the engagement and assistance around the compilation of the budget and his support and guidance for the implementation of FAMPLA. WCPP would also like to thank the Minister of Community Safety, Alan Windy, and his department for their assistance given to the committees of WCPP during their oversight visits. A special word of appreciation to the Parliamentary Oversight Committee under the chairpersonship of Honourable Wiley for the role he plays in ensuring and maintaining oversight over the financial management of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. At this stage, it would be remiss of me not to thank the Honourable Ace for his insightful questions in unpacking the budget and helping to understand. Honourable Ace, I will certainly miss that engagement. I would also like to thank all our stakeholders and assurance providers, the Auditor General of South Africa, the Audit Committee, and Internal Audit for their oversight and advisory services. Lastly, I would like to thank the Deputy Secretary, Speaker, the Secretary, and his entire team for their contribution, commitment, and continued support. I thank you.
Honourable Chief Whip Wiley.
Your last speech, your very last speech.
You wish. Right, Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. I'm not going to repeat what the Speaker said about the increases to our budget. And it is a well-known fact that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament is still in transition phase with the various different things that are being applied at the ERPM, function enhancement and the like. But the Western Cape Provincial Parliament remains a beacon of hope in the South African legislative sector. It has the smallest budget by population, the smallest staff complement, but it remains the busiest legislature in the sector. In oversight, including that of SCOPA, and I'm very sorry that once again the chairperson of SCOPA has failed in his duty to be here to participate in this debate. The Auditor General has confirmed in his reports that our oversight is good in this legislature. Our public hearings processes and other legislative functions frequently follow thorough and due process, and we are often praised for that. But, Deputy Speaker, it is another area that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament is also the smallest, and that is that the quantum of MPs in this chamber here is also the smallest per capita in the province. In 1997, when the final constitution was ratified by the Constitutional Assembly, and I had the privilege of actually having been a member of that Constitutional Assembly, the Western Cape was given 42 members for a population of 4.2 million people. In 1998, the Western Cape Constitution, we being the only province in this country that fulfilled its obligation of creating a a provincial constitution, we entrenched that line in our constitution that we have 42 members. So we have another step to cross if we want to change it. It is a fact that the residents of any province are entitled to their fair share of public representation in order for their needs to be serviced and for oversight, and to be able to be a thermometer to go into the communities to find out what is going on. For that, we do need to have more public representatives. In the time since this province, since 1998, this province has grown to, I understand that today was corroborated as 6.8 million. Now, if one takes the rough rule of thumb that was used previously of 1 representative per 100,000, then that would increase this chamber from 42 to 68 members. Efforts by the DA governing party to get the ANC to agree to a change in the Western Cape Constitution began in 2015. First, they dragged their feet. Then they said they were waiting for Secretary General Mantashe at the time to take a decision on the matter. And then in the post-Zuma era, everything just died through decision paralysis, as is so often the case with so many things of the national departments. This has to happen sooner rather than later. Western Cape Provincial Parliament and the Western Cape Government must start to take steps now to prepare for this reality. I am absolutely convinced that the need is greater than ever to increase the numbers, and I get the impression from discussions with the other side recently that they too want to see the numbers of this legislature increase. But, Deputy Speaker, there are some other threats as well. The one is the independence of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament as an institution. The legislative sector bill that they wanted to bring about is the centralisation of efforts, having a bargaining chamber with regard to all the staff complements right around the country, with the Speaker of the National Assembly being in charge and being seen in a superior capacity, for instance, to the individual speakers of the legislatures. There's a standardized rules and procedures threat and a single staff roster, which may well mean that if they like a clerk of papers over here, the Limpopo government can demand that that person be sent over there. In other words, we are not able to select our staff to the level and standard that we require here. And may I say that our staff, and I'll get onto that in a second, are second to none. Then there's the role of the National Council of Provinces. The National Council of Provinces exists because of the provinces, not despite the provinces. It is there to be a voice for the provinces and to protect the provinces, not to be there to rubber stamp the National Assembly and to run simply as they see fit. Currently, there is chaos in the ANC factions on the other side, and that has rubbed off in the ability of the scheduling and programming of the NCOP. And I'll give you an example.
What example?
Yesterday, in fact this morning, I received from the acting secretary a letter that was sent through relating to the agenda for a plenary on Thursday. Thursday. Our program was set 6 months ago for our budget process. Yet on Thursday, they have got almost 30 items that they're going to try and rush through in a plenary on the other side, denying us the opportunity to be represented as a province with regard to bills, with regard to considerations and reports, a whole host of things. But there's about 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 476 legislation there, for which we're entitled to go and voice our opinion. But the unfortunate thing is that they treat us with such an afterthought. They often tell us the day in advance about important bills that are in the other house over there.
Order, members.
And we are not able to select special delegates for those important debates and bill processing. Well, the unfortunate thing is, coming from a communist, that is perfect, because in a communist country they don't have elections, they don't have multiple parties, they have no processes for passing a legislation. They pass legislation by diktat. Yep. Well, please, will someone get the coffee to blow it in his direction so he can also understand that communism is over and the Cold War is over? There is not a country on the face of the earth that has succeeded under communism. The only thing that has happened is about 100 million people have died as a result of it. The NCOP is being rendered irrelevant and a threat to the existence of the provinces, and become also an anti-Western Cape forum for those provinces that are so inadequate they can't run their own affairs. I'd like to speak about the Western Cape staff, if I may, Deputy Speaker. They remain an outstanding and professional body of people, and we wish Mr. Adams well in the incoming secretary. Our Western Cape staff are dedicated to lawmaking, frequently questioning both national and provincial bills. We do send it back on occasion to the partners, tell them to please alter things or bring about amendments. Our public hearings are extensive and thorough, more so than any other province, and we frequently hear about this in the NCOP, where bills fail because it is pointed out that negotiating mandates and final mandates haven't even been put to the committees. They never even had a public hearing. In fact, fraudulent activity has occurred on occasion. To all from the senior management to the long-serving staff and ordinary members doing essential services, thank you for your service. The lawyers, the translators, the catering staff, the table staff, Hansard, the committee section, HR, service officers, IT, public education and relations, and the paper staff. If I have left anybody out, I apologize. Also to Serving and Police Service and the Parliamentary Provincial staff who keep us safe, and especially the Sergeant at Arms. Thank you very much for carrying that heavy mace. I want to especially mention one individual, and that's Alvin Poggenpoel, who's always in my office making sure that I have done my work or making advice with regard to the order paper. Alvin, thank you very much. To my own caucus staff, I also thank you for ensuring efficient service that has seen 5 years of generally well-run and busy program. I am loath to single out anyone, but I would like to mention Noreen Schilder and Belinda Sickle, who work constantly with the other parties and members, and thank them very much for their work in that regard. Lastly, Speaker, and on a rather otherwise note, the Speaker has referred to the rules changes which are going to be in front of us on Thursday. This applies to all members. Congratulations, first of all, as far as members are concerned, to Mazoli Mankasela on getting his postgraduate diploma yesterday at LSS, which is one of the positive things in, that WCPP do make available for the members. But we can change the rules every day of the week, all day if we wish. If the members ignore them individually or collectively, they are meaningless. In my experience in politics, we have to change the system of representation at this sphere. There are too many members who are not honourable, nor dedicated to public representation. Their failure in this last budget, the failure to pay debt, a normal debt, like for instance when you owe something for lost equipment, or for instance you say you're going to go on a public outreach or public hearings and you don't arrive, or you make use of the parliamentary transport and then you don't sit in the hearings, you are liable like anybody else for incurring that debt. The fact that there are 4 members, some of dating back to 2016, is not only unheard of, but disgraceful. And if it was not for the spotlight that I put onto it, and the rest of my committee put onto it in the last couple of months, it would have been double that amount. None of them, say, on the right-hand side, my right-hand side of the House here. Thank you very much for that. There's also a failure, there's a total disrespect for the House and WC's PP procedures. And we've seen this where the registrar has routinely gone and stood on the doorstep of members' offices, asking them, pleading with them to do their ethical and moral responsibility with regard to declaration of interest, which they failed to do. And the House has censured some members in this regard. But the arrogance displayed by members in this regard is frightening, absolutely frightening. In fact, the last member that speak is the epitome of what I would call a person who is a dishonourable member. Patent dishonesty is a hallmark.
Order, Chief Whip. I think that's a direct reference to a member of this House, which can be identified as a member of this House, so that would not be parliamentary to call a member not.
Well, Deputy Speaker, if that, as you know, I can't see very well these days. I only heard a voice, not sure who it was, so I just said it was a patently that individual. But if that person would like to identify themselves, then I will withdraw.
Order, Member Wiley. Can I ask you this way? Did you refer to a specific member of the House by calling him dishonourable? If so, then that is
Deputy Speaker, if you're alluding to the fact that I mentioned the Honourable Cameron Dugmore, the answer is yes, and I withdraw.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about bullying. When 3 members pack up and attack an elderly visitor to this parliament in crude and rude language, and he wants to talk about bullying, that is the epitome of a disgraceful, dishonourable behaviour.
Order.
You know, and the thing that gets me, Deputy Speaker, the thing that gets me is that there is this constant refrain that we don't take responsibility individually. It's a collective responsibility. Well, I want to tell you something. I hope that my successor takes individual responsibility. I take responsibility for every one of the members here. If they stuff up, I will take responsibility for it. That is the role of a chief whip. There is no such thing as collective responsibility. There is only something called
order.
There is only something called common purpose. And when the bad old days, when people packed together and literally gang raped people or collectively burnt them with tires, then they went to court because they said they were charged under common purpose. And that's what I'm talking about. There is no such thing as collective responsibility. You either are individually responsible because that's what the law recognizes, or it was common purpose. In other words, it was a samasweran.
Order.
Lastly, in conclusion...
Order. Member, just 1 second. Order. Honourable Lekker. Order. Please come to order now. I'm talking specifically Honourable Lekker, Honourable Diana, and Honourable Makaleni. Honourable Lekker, I've just mentioned your name. Please refrain from making comments now. You may continue.
Thank you. In conclusion, Deputy Speaker, I would really ask that whoever sits in the corridors of power in future that they relook at the system of public representation. I would suggest that they dust off the manual, the study that was done by Van Zyl-Slabbert. We have got to develop public representatives who are there for public representation, not there for the salary package. And that we have, like at the ward system, we have also at provincial level people who are geographically representative, so that the people can recognize and understand who represents them. In this election campaign, I come across it on a daily basis, where people say, who is my public representative? Who is my parliamentarian? And that is because people are not prepared to stand up there and take ownership of the career of public representation as being a politician, restore it to its honourable state that it should be, and to go out there and to be proper public representatives and to be answerable for the role they play. Instead, people hide as much as they can. And I'm speaking in generalities, because I want to say as a last point, is that it's been an absolute revelation to work with my own colleagues who are not that sort of public representative, who are prepared to be accountable, who do work with the communities, who do hold projects in their community, and can be considered to be upholding the honour that public representation should be. I thank you.
Order. I want to see the Honourable Ace, but there's too much communication across the floor. Honourable Ace. I see the Honourable Ace.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you for the input from the Speaker. In the 10 minutes, I would like to respond to Honourable Wiley, but hopefully I will get to that. I just want to reflect on the 5 last years and specifically on some of the staff issues. And yeah, I really want to thank the staff. They worked extremely hard. The staff that remained behind, some staff left. And I don't think this House really understand and know the difficult circumstances that this staff work under. We know the accommodation has not been increased, and there's been a growing number of staff here. So let me thank each and every one of the staff members, those that were here the last 5 years, and those that remained here, and specifically also their families, because we could see them going through a very, very difficult period. And I'm not going to go into detail, but I would like to highlight some of the issues here. We first had an acting secretary, and yeah, I must say thank you to Mr. Hindi. I think this is the 4th time this 5 years or something like that you're acting here. I mean, it's uncalled for and unasked, and you will not get it in any other parliament. Ms. Fakira was appointed in February 2015. Very soon after that, Honourable Deputy Speaker, she came in August out with a report and really reflected on the staff and how bad it's going with the staff. And I'm not going to reflect on it. It was quite a substantial report. But she was saying that there's an increasing incidence of fatigue, burnout of staff, sick leave are increasing, and there's the decline to meet standards and timelines. That was very bad. That was in 2015. The end of 2015, it was so bad for the Deputy Secretary that she resigned here end of 2015. Mrs. Fakira, the Secretary to Parliament, consequently had to go the same route because of that. That was in January 2016. That was just in that short period of time. And you can see the instability that was created here. Then there was a secretary appointed, and I really referred to the secretary many, many times here. And it's not personalizing it. In February 2016, there was a secretary appointed without any due process. No consultation, no advertising, no transparency. And that individual was appointed till now, the 31st of March. By the way, it's interesting to see that a secretary take leave in the last month of employment. Also strange, Honourable Deputy Speaker, with a secretary appointed on a 7th, 8th contract. You will never find it, you will never get it anywhere, I want to say, in the world. And what we also experienced here, Deputy Speaker, was the Chief Parliamentary Officer, and he was also at that stage the acting secretary because he had to carry that extra burden and load, resigned. The manager ICT resigned. The manager Public Education and Outreach resigned. But worse, Deputy Speaker, none of those posts were filled. And that's the pressure that we see that emerged and that's on the staff here. And then even to add to this uncertainty that's happening within the Provincial Legislature, in September 2018, the PricewaterhouseCoopers report of 1.5 million rand in terms of organizational restructuring was released. And in that report, 38 posts would have been abandoned here, and people would have lost their jobs. Now you can understand what uncertainty that caused. Again, a wrongly management of a report. Yes, that report was eventually in November 2018 abandoned. None of the issues of the PricewaterhouseCoopers report of 1.5 million rand was implemented. And really, that caused demotivation, uncertainty, and put major pressure on staff and, of course, their families. It's with this, behind this background that I would like to thank all staff, and I wish you well. I would like to say, have faith. There is a new dawn. There is a new dawn coming. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I would like to deviate just very briefly before getting to the budget itself. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the MPLs and the size and number of this provincial parliament, we all know there's due process. This legislator can't just go about and say we want to change our constitution. There's due process via the national legislative sector. And I know you started more towards the end and our time was not sufficient to really do it. But to create the impression there was ANC members here that was not cooperating. This is not an island, this is not a federal state. You can't just change what's happening here and have a national constitution. But I think there was a will here, will from all sides here, to say, let's take it forward. So let's put that into proper perspective. The next one that was raised here, Honourable Deputy Speaker, was that the NCOP and the issues in the NCOP. The NCOP, I don't understand what is the issue at hand. Legislation come here, there's a time frame, we attend to it. But, Deputy Speaker, the last legislation we had here around the National Gambling Amendment Bill, there was not one member of the DA that's supposed to be here because they, the majority in the Western Cape, in terms of that legislation. I would even say it's illegal because that person was not here, but we continued. Not at one of the sessions, not at the hearing, not at the discussion, not at anything that we've seen any of that here. Then, Honourable Deputy Speaker, there was also referred to debt. And there's always a reflection on members of the ANC. If there's debt, debt must be managed via the administrative processes. If there was no proper administrative processes, where there at least an opportunity for the member to put his or her case, why it happened. And we all know sometimes there's an outreach program in Citrusdal or wherever the case may be, and there's miscommunication, or there could be miscommunication. Therefore, it's important just to not only point fingers at honourable members here, but really to also understand what is the issue at hand. And then Honourable Wiley referred to the declaration, and really people just don't ignore it. The last report we received from the registrar was that all members, all, and I'm including the DA, 42 members, all 42 members timeously, before the 30th of April, declared their interest. So I don't know why he's casting aspersion on members that's sitting here, and that's a major problem that we see, and a major concern that I need to express. I want to briefly get to the budget, and again, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we see that there's been not all the money spent in the last financial year. Again, 3 million rand had not been spent. But Deputy Speaker, worse, we picked up now in the budget as the Parliamentary Oversight Committee errors in the budget. This is the budget in front of us, Honourable Deputy Speaker, but no effort to put an errand in the ATC, nothing. I saw today the Premier did that. I mean, you can't go forward with mistakes and not even try to rectify it after it's been pointed out to you. That's what's happening. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Speaker referred to the 750,000 rand transfer from the legislative sector. But when asking the Speaker in this House For what will that 750,000 be used? There was no answer. We will come back to you. How can you budget have 750,000 in your budget and you don't know what you're going to use that money for? There's also the issue around what Honourable Wiley referred to as the independent, almost like legislator, and there's this big brother or this big something out there, the parliament, that's going to influence impact here. We asked that question, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Legal services for this in this budget will increase by 63%. And the reason why, on the one hand, we get praise for the legislative sector, so-called good work, what is happening there, we participate, and we like to participate, and the next moment we say, we put more money aside, we're going to fight national in terms of the issues that's coming to the fore. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the allocation to political parties. The Speaker tried to explain, I don't think it's a fair, reasonable, good answer that she actually reflected, because we refer to the Blue Book here. There's only an increase of 0.97% to political parties. We must break it down. We must go look at the adjustment estimate, the revised estimate, and the new estimate that we find here. 0.97% increase to political parties, and that's to cover services, increase in rent, increase in salaries. Again, a total disjuncture of what's happening in the office of the Speaker and what's happening on the ground with political parties and how they need to address it. But give you another example of what's really happening in this legislature. And let's refer to a very simple thing that I hope we all can very easy understand and associate with, and that's catering services. Honourable Deputy Speaker, can you believe this? Can the House believe this? There's not a delegated or a designated service provider for catering. I mean, it's a simple thing for catering. So, any committee, if there's 4 committees or 10 committees, the staff must go out on a quote of 3 for each and every single committee. Now, I mean, you can think for yourself what's happening to this staff. What they must do is they must go out. So if there's 4 committees, there's 3 tenders for each one. Every single day, every single committee, 3 tenders. And now we can see how absurd this is. Waste of time of staff, additional security vetting, and how do you do quality control? Honourable Deputy Speaker, last one, the Honourable Speaker referred to accommodation. We took a decision on accommodation. We said we want to look at the 3rd floor, but nothing is happening. There's nothing in the budget. Speaker, if you look at the 4th floor, and I don't know what the 5th floor looked like, it's in a mess. It's not been maintained and upkeep. But Honourable Speaker, and I'm going to conclude there, Deputy Speaker, when there was a problem with your car, I believe there was a cockroach in your car the other day. What did you do? What did you do? You had the car, a full valet. You hired the Mercedes-Benz for 3 days. But here we as members, we don't get any services, and they are cramped up in offices.
Order. On that note, we must stop the debate. Order. The Speaker to order. Order. Honourable Mgaka.
Can I apologize on behalf of all of us to Honourable Joseph for being a deputy of Honourable Wiley?
Order. That's the frivolous point of order. I see the Speaker to respond. Order. Honourable Wiley.
Deputy Speaker, I would just like to again object to the fact that the ACDP and the EFF are once again missing from this important vote.
You are correct. I see the Speaker to respond.
Deputy Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank all the members of the House for their cooperation and active participation in the matters affecting the Provincial Parliament. The Honourable Ace reminded everybody during the Parliamentary Oversight Committee meeting last committee meeting on the budget that one should not take criticism levelled at the administration personally, and that it is done in the spirit of oversight responsibility of members. I fully agree with him on that score. Allow me then in the spirit to share a few observations of how this oversight responsibility was exercised by certain members over the past 4 years. Nothing personal, of course. Peddling of corridor gossip as gospel that the functional enhancement process will result in job losses in the WCPP. Truth is that the functional enhancement process resulted in additional jobs on the establishment to ensure better services to our members, with not a single staff member losing his or her job as a result of functional enhancement. Accusations of closing the democratic space in the legislature. Truth is that the biggest closure of the democratic space happened when the Premier was not allowed by members to deliver her State of the Province address in 2015 as a result of filibustering of the worst kind in true EFF style. The Western Cape Provincial Parliament has successfully concluded the review of the rules, which hopefully will better regulate the democratic space going forward. Some of the most peculiar and sometimes bizarre interpretations of the standing rules. I suppose the Afrikaans saying that in die land van die blindes is een oor koning best describes the particular situation. The revelation of a scandal of epic proportions in the office of the Speaker regarding irregular expenditure, the procurement of a Gatsby from petty cash, and the huge fallout, yet another, I never ate it, I never purchased it, I never tasted it, thank you. Yet another clean audit. But let me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, talk to the sheer hypocrisy of this very ANC, who will take the Speaker's office to task for a Gatsby, yet in their ranks they have members who owe this very institution money, but they will not exercise oversight over their own members. Fear-mongering by members that the parliamentary administration is on the brink of collapse because of the loss of senior staff. Staff being under enormous stress and not well paid at all. Truth is that we have a solid administration ready to respond to the challenges of the 6th Parliament. What is even more interesting, Deputy Speaker, is that people who have left this institution are actually now applying for positions to come back here. So it can't be such a bad place after all. Our staff are well remunerated, and a significantly number of internal staff have been appointed to senior positions in the administration. After a rigorous recruitment, you know, you're so predictable, I can call you out on everything you do. Thank you. So I could actually prepare a speech after 4 years. I know this man so well. Same old. Help me to understand. Please unpack this. As a sell a story, man. Come on. Significant, however, is, well, you should go to that toilet and see what it's about.
Speaker, I want to protect you. I want to protect you. You may continue.
Significant, however, is that in March 2009, and I need not to remind the members here, in 2009, WCPP had a vacancy rate of 26%. This has been brought down to the current 3.2% of funded vacancies. So much for a collapsing administration. But as the Honourable A says, nothing personal, all in the spirit of our members doing our jobs. Let us do vigorous oversight. By the way, we are the only legislature in this country subjected to scrutiny to this extent. I can tell you that in other legislatures, the Speaker of the House presides over the Parliamentary Oversight Committee. We are the only legislature that does not do that. We cannot be the judge and jury. So, let's talk about this. Then the Honourable Ace talked about my being a professional traveller. And I was quite worried. I thought, now, he travelled with me to Los Angeles on a trip. What was he talking about? So I did some research, and lo and behold, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I stumbled across a media article that talks to a certain Mr. Sean Bailiff-Holt, who was forever travelling and apparently spent more time out of the country than at work. It says he visited 52 countries in less than 4 years. So, Honourable Ace, your comment about a professional traveller, pales into insignificance. Again, the sheer hypocrisy of the ANC. You want to pull this side of the house up, sweep before your own door before you sweep somewhere else. Then, the fire rationale, the catering, there is a long-term catering service contract on the way, and so on, all of the other stuff we've dealt with. I'm not going to go there. But Honourable Magaka, I'm not going anywhere, thank you. I know you're going somewhere, but I'm not going anywhere, thank you. I just want to get to my last little bit, Deputy Speaker. I think it's important to thank the Secretary in his absence, Dr. Lawrence, for very ably assisting WCPP, together with its stalwart team of staff, for steadying the ship this last 3 years. We can certainly say that Western Cape Provincial Parliament is the best parliament in the country, and very soon we will be the best in the SADC region, and we will become the best parliament on the continent, because we have the right people to make it happen. I also want to thank every staff member, every service provider and stakeholder for ensuring that Western Cape Provincial Parliament delivers on its mandate. I would also like to thank my office staff for the support over the last some 58 months. They have gone the extra mile to ensure that the office of the Speaker runs smoothly. Finally, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I wish to express my immense gratitude and appreciation to you. You have acted as a coach and mentor to me. You have shared freely and guided me through moments of sheer terror, and for that, I thank you. Your knowledge, experience, and contribution to the sector is immense. And you will be sorely missed. I thank you.
Thank you. On that note, we conclude the debate on this vote. Order. The House will just suspend for a brief while and then restart with the next order. The House is suspended.